सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. So last time we saw verse 81, and all these verses are in the context of stressing that aikyam part, that oneness part. So finally Brahma Vidya has to culminate as Atma Vidya. So we wanted to know what is that ultimate cause, and that was pointed out more as oneself, and various examples were given that has to culminate into Atma Vidya. Brahma Vidya has to culminate into Atma Vidya. So that is the conclusion, and phala is that actually. Sorry.
Sir, I had one small request.
Please.
It's a request, like what you must have done in the last session. Maybe 10 minutes if you can give a little bit of gist. Otherwise, that must have been very good session and I missed it. So if it's possible to just give a gist in 10 minutes, I will be thankful.
Yeah, we can do that. But for that, you will have to go and open
I have opened
presentation.
I have opened it onto my mobile.
Okay. Fine. So I do not know the slide number. If you see a slide where we have depicted an object X moving from point X to point Y.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in that there are two examples given. The first example given is about an object, an inanimate object, which is basically this panchakosha, just body, and it moves from point 1 to point 2. So when it moves from point 1 to point 2, what is happening? That is something one has to inquire. Basically, the item is moving because there is force which is pushing it from place 1 to place 2, you can say. And second thing that is happening is something which we normally do not observe. The second thing that is happening is it is moving in space, and space is intact. It is moving in space and space is intact. And when we have to compare this with water, I mean, if you replace space with water, then you will understand when we swim, for example, when we have to move our body, we have to push across water around us to be able to move forward. Water does not go in and through us. So this is basic difference between space and anything other than space in terms of worldly objects. So in Panchabhuta, if we reduce everything that is grossly seen here, you can reduce that to the model of Panchabhuta. So amongst Panchabhuta, the first one is space, which is something which we cannot say it is nil. It is not zero. It is something. It's a container, kind of, you can say. It's an empty container. The only thing is there is no boundary. It is a container without a boundary. So space is not zero. Space is something. So that's the reason it's given the name Bhuta. Bhuta is that which kind of exists as a gross thing. That's the reason the Bhuta word is used actually. It is Bhuta. So that's the reason it's presented as one of the Panchamahabhutas. So from air and water onwards, if you see, that concept of all pervasiveness is kind of gone. Whereas space retains this all pervasiveness. So that's amazing actually, that anything that can remain intact, there are two ways of looking at it. One way to say is that it goes in and through everything. The other way to say is that it stands still while everything can travel in it. That's the other way of looking at it. Because space is not pushed by anyone for it to be able to move as such. What is moving is object. And the energy which is pushed is on object. The external force is on the object, not on space. So actually what is moving is object only. So object is moving and what is intact is space. So for space to be able to remain intact, it has to have this ability of all pervasiveness. That's the word. That is why the word all pervasiveness is used. But normally when we understand pervasiveness, we think pervasiveness is related to a movement of that thing itself, which is all pervasive. Actually, it is so stable, absolutely stable. That's the reason it is called all pervasive, not because it can go in and through everything. Because it doesn't travel at all. If you say go means it was not there right at the beginning, at point 1, before the, like for example, if movement has to be taken as a concept, an object has to be at one place, only then you can track movement. Space is something which is everywhere, then where will you track movement? So if the object is identified as located as X place, then you can say it was not in place Y at a particular point in time. So you take location as time as well as space both on the graph. So at a given point in time, this item is only in this place, it is not in place 2. But after being pushed, it has occupied place 2, but it ceases to be in place 1. So this is actually applicable to everything other than space. But space is one hero which is so intact, absolutely intact, that things can just go in and through space. And space does not move, give way by moving around that body. It goes in and through body, and we know that even atom, even if it is given a defined size, in 1 by 10 to the power of minus, or whatever it is, 10 to the power of minus also you give anything, there also it still has a size. We can't see, but it has a size. In that also there is a definition of orbits, and in that also the particle which is there is even more minute than the atom, obviously, because it's a part of atom, so it has to be even smaller than that. And if we identify particles within atom, which means that anything other than that particle is a non-particle. That non-particle is space. So in atom itself, 99% or even 99.99% probably is space. So for an atom to thrive, it needs space as an ingredient. So when an object is moving, the space inside those atoms is intact. They travel with that only. And when we say they travel with that, do they encapsulate space 0.1 or some microns of 0.1 space, and do they carry that along when they go to the other place? No. It will be like, saying, for example, I am in Ahmedabad. For example, I am born in Ahmedabad and I have captivated some space related to Ahmedabad. And when I travel to Kashi, the space inside me is the one which I have cut from Ahmedabad because I was born there. Can this happen this way? When I go to Kashi, the space that I am occupying is that space which was already there in Kashi. I am not carrying, it's not like cut and paste. I am not in Excel. It's very easy to show from Excel actually. It is not a cut and paste. So space is available everywhere as a medium in which this body thrives. So the body can travel up to that place. So if at all, for example, we create a road, that's an infrastructure. On that road, vehicles can move, easily, anytime. They can just move. As long as the road is available, they can keep on moving. And it's not necessary that the vehicle has to be there. That highway can be empty also. It can be empty also. It can be without objects. That doesn't depend on objects. However, the objects, the cars, they need road to travel. So any infrastructure you take for that matter, you take a monorail, you take a metro, that infrastructure is just available. What moves is whether you call it that metro or monorail or a car, those things move. Infrastructure doesn't move. In this case, you take space as the infrastructure. Sorry, someone is saying something? Okay. So, in this case, take that space to be that Maha infrastructure. That's why we call it Pancha Mahabhuta, and one of the main thing is space. In that infrastructure, everything can come, everything can cease to exist, everything can travel, everything can be at peace. Anything is possible. Every possibility is within this space. Characters can come, characters can go, and an atom can be formed with so many electrons, and it can be also with some more electrons or less electrons. Any possibility is in this space, and space remains intact without being affected in any way for that matter. If oxygen is there, space has no problem. If chlorine is there, also space has no problem. But Pancha Mahabhuta, Pancha Kosha has a problem with chlorine, because whatever tattva based on which this human body and normal living beings are created, chlorine happens to be a showstopper. It doesn't allow respiration to happen, or it makes some changes in the body which creates problem for the existence itself. So chlorine is a problem for living beings and certain bodies. The way they have to normally work, it stops, because when chlorine comes, it's a problem, it's poison. But space has absolutely no problem. It can hold oxygen as much as it can hold chlorine. Chlorine also exists in space only. Even if you put it in a container, it is in space only. You remove that container to another place, same space is available, put another oxygen container, it will accommodate oxygen. It has no problem. Absolutely no problem. So, space is that which accommodates all. That's the reason the Sanskrit name Avakashi iti Akasha. That which gives accommodation to anything, that which accommodates anything and everything for that matter, that is called space. That's why it is called Akasha. Avakashi iti Akasha. It gives Avakasha to everything. That's why it is called Akasha. So, we have to understand that thing which is still, in which transactions happen, in which cars come and go, monorails come and go, whatever, that infrastructure, let us take that space as an infrastructure. In that infrastructure, everything is happening. And this is an amazing thing. This space is not given a boundary at all. This space is without a boundary. It's a container without a boundary. If at all we want to relate to that Akshaya Patra which was given by Krishna, Lord Krishna to Draupadi, when she had to serve, I think, food to many, she was saying that she didn't have enough food and she had to cook and she had to serve to probably Durvasa Muni and others. So at that time, I think he gave a Akshaya Patra. He said that this is Akshaya, which this will never, this will never go down, in terms of the content. You finish the content, again it will come. At just will it will come. It is very simple. Just compare that with space. So Lord Krishna has already provided space, which is an Akshaya Patra. We can do one painting, throw the chart, that is a rough work, again do another painting, we can improve upon it. We can throw as many charts as possible, no problem. Like that, in space, bring as many thoughts as possible, this thought, that thought, small thought, big thought, inferiority complex, superiority complex, no complex, bring anything, it is all in space, and again space is available for some more thoughts. So space is an amazing thing in which things happen. So this is one understanding. So the understanding is that space is the boss. It is intact. There is no concept of movement of space because it is still. However, any movement whatsoever happens only in space because of space. Because space does not stop movement. Had space been something like air, and if that could be frozen, nothing will move actually. Nothing will move. But then that's not the way space is. Space accommodates everything. Space accommodates movement. It just accommodates everything. So space is all pervasive in this sense, and it is omnipresent as well. It is available everywhere. So these two, you can say omnipotent as well because it holds everything, and omnipresence, you can say all pervasiveness is more to do with omnipresence. These two, it borrows from Brahman. Brahman is just after this. That's what we are going to discuss after this. So there are two things, main things which space has. Obviously it comes from Brahman only, so it has to have some qualities of Brahman. These two it borrows. Now we have to come to the second example, where we will talk about the third important thing which is not imbibed by space. So in the second example, we are taking this example of a living object, and living object is made of two ingredients. One is Chaitanya, the Chit, consciousness, whatever we call it, plus a given body. It can be any body, whatever it is. It can be animal, it can be man, whatever it is. Now, as far as that body part is concerned, that Panchakosha, whatever is concerned, that part goes with the same logic as the first example, where body moves. It moves from point 1 to point 2, body just moves, space is intact. Now, we have to understand what is happening to Chit here actually. So, the body or a person who was at point 1, he was conscious, and as he has moved from point 1 to point 2, he is still conscious, and in between whatever pixel or whatever points you want to consider, between point 1 and point 2, he was conscious all through. That time I think I gave this concept of Vande Bharat, where person boards Vande Bharat in Ahmedabad and he reaches Mumbai. That conscious person just remains the same. Maybe his body would have undergone a change because of tiredness or whatever it is. That's possible. Or he would have become more excited while coming to Mumbai because his relatives are there. That's a different thing. Body can undergo changes. Mind can undergo changes because they are all a part of material world. But Chit, which is there inside, the indweller, the one who's the witness, that Chit remains the same in whatever quality. There is no change at all. That body was conscious when it started. It is still conscious when it reached the destination. And in this movement, in none of these parts, the consciousness was lost. Maximum what can happen? You can be awake when you witness the body even easily, or you can sleep and dream basically, and again you witness the dream, and you can have sushupti. Only three things can happen when you are traveling, and even in sushupti, you are able to finally witness that yes, I was in a state where my mind was so resolved that there was no dream. Again you are able to recollect, and that recollection is possible only because consciousness was available. Otherwise, if that was also not available, there is no one to recollect also. So that was available because that is a continuing entity. So consciousness is throughout available in the same measure, not any different measure, from point 1 to point 2. So here what is happening, in the first example we said space is available everywhere at every point from point 1 to point 2. For example, we had taken these points. Space was available all through, and it is limitless. Container without a boundary. So that was the conclusion in the first example. In the second one, what's happening? The same thing is repeating for consciousness now. So now you have to understand, okay, is space that thing which is intact, absolutely intact, or is consciousness the thing which is absolutely intact? Because it is available everywhere. It's available everywhere in every point. The body was conscious all the time. So this is where you have to flip the understanding. Here now you understand that the infrastructure which we thought earlier as space is not the real infrastructure. That is not the ultimate infrastructure. The real infrastructure is consciousness. Consciousness is available everywhere. That consciousness is borrowed all the time by these Panchakosha to thrive. That's all. As I said that atom has 99.99% space. You have atom here, and as it moves, it goes here. It does not cut and paste the atoms here. It just uses the space that is available in the next point. That's all. It does not cut and paste. It does not carry anything along with it. If at all we carry, yes, grossly you can understand, we definitely carry our blood. Thank God. We don't, blood is not all pervasive, thank God. Otherwise, all these groups will get mixed up, and finally probably we'd have had only a mixed group if that was the case. So it doesn't happen that way. But space, that's the reason we go to space actually. So Ashish is smiling. So so space, it's an absolute example, right? So now when you take the second example, when chit comes, when consciousness comes, I am a conscious being, I was conscious at point 1, I took 1 hour to travel to point 2, I have no difference in my consciousness, absolutely no difference in my consciousness. I was witnessing something which was there. When I open my eyes, I witness something which is here, that's all. Whatever the 5 senses do, they just keep doing the same thing. I am behind those senses finally. And the 5 senses, they use this space, and more than this space, they use this consciousness for it to even understand. Any cognition for that matter is only belonging to this chit. That is where all-knowing, omniscience comes into picture. So we have 3 things: omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. When the ultimate gives way for a world to come about, the first thing which comes is space. Obviously, when ultimate is reduced to something, the unseen thing, the one which has no guna, is now starting to have guna. Because now we are talking about the container, size, everything. This is all coming only because space is coming first. If that is to happen, obviously there will be some loss of potence. So that omniscience is gone when space is created. When space comes about, omniscience is gone as far as space is concerned. But omniscience is already available, and it is available as what? Us. As chit, which is us. That is what Atma is all about. Atma is Satchitananda. That is what the chit is all about actually. Atma is Satchitananda. So the chit is already available. We are available as chit. We don't need to worry where the chit, what to do with the chit now, how do I collect chit now. We don't need to collect chit. Chit is already available. Just imagine, you have a train, and now when you have to travel, you have to create the track and travel. Just imagine the predicament. Just because there is, for example, road. I think we never drive a train, so we may not be able to empathize or relate to that. Assuming you have to create a road, and then you have to drive your Mercedes car. Just imagine what a painful thing it would be. It's so easy that road is available, I just travel. And that's what is the infrastructure created. Space is available, just travel, use that space everywhere. You don't need to cut out your, like normally, sorry that I'm giving this example of a region. Mostly Gujaratis make food and they carry the food wherever they go. Normally they don't like to eat outside food, which is a good, healthy habit. In this case, luckily, chit and space are not like that I have to carry my space in my tiffin box and carry it wherever I go to accommodate my space, my body. If my body is of 20 ounce or 100 ounce, 100 ounce of space I don't need to carry along with me like a tiffin box actually. I don't need to do that. It's ideally available as an infrastructure outside of me. Luckily, this body can just go and accommodate get accommodated in another space. That's all. Absolutely no problem. I don't need to carry. Similarly, I don't need to carry my chit. Arey baapre, chit nahi rahega to kya karunga main? I can't even think, what do I do now? I have to talk there. So let me carry my chit along with me. Let us pack it. We don't need to pack it. Because chit is just intact. It is available everywhere. Just as much as space is. It is available intact. What is moving is basically this body mind sense complex which is moving in this. Like trains move, tracks do not move. Similarly, bodies move, space does not move. Similarly, body plus mind moves, consciousness does not move. Consciousness is just available. Mind is matter. It has the ability to use consciousness and reflect as though it is a conscious being. As though that mind itself is consciousness. It has the ability to kind of get into that role, use that and show as though it is consciousness. That's where the problem is. All that we are trying to do is that Mind, which is the bhokta, is the karta and bhokta. Mind, the one who identifies with mind, is the karta and bhokta. The identification association is the problem. The wrong identification is the problem. Give away that identity with body mind sense complex, you are already free. That was the status earlier also. Yes, somehow the confusion sets in. How? There is no answer. Anadikalaha, it is anadi. It is just there. But do we understand that yes, there is a problem? There is a lack of understanding? That is definitely there. At least when Shastra has provided us that idea, we understand that yes, there is a lack of knowledge, lack of our understanding about ourselves. Are we able to undo that lack of knowledge and undo that wrong understanding? We are able to with the help of Shastra. So when we are coming out, this side is very clear. Why part? Forget that. If there is a problem, get away from the problem. Don't worry about how the problem came in. Like when we go when we go to hospital, get treated, come out. We just want to get lost from that hospital, come out and have a nice cup of coffee or tea once we come home. At that time, if someone comes and asks you, by the way, do you want to know how you got that problem for which you had to be operated upon? I say, forget here, all those things. I'm happy now. Leave me alone. So once jnana happens, be happy. Don't worry about. By the way, I had to really toil, at least for 10 years to understand this knowledge. Why in the first place and how in the first place this problem came about? Again, you will be getting into the same cycle actually. Never get into that cycle. Come out of the cycle. Understand yourself as Chit, which is the infrastructure, which is the only infrastructure. In that everything comes and goes. The moment you identify yourself with the vehicle, you will have all the problems of vehicle. So you will be stuck with, old Oka Tuticorin train, which has a pathetic coach. And you will think that, oh, I am such an old coach. There are many more Vande Bharats which are running and I don't have this body now, what to do? I have to only, use this body as long as it lasts. So that will be the problem. If you identify yourself with the infrastructure, then all trains are yours only. All trains are yours because they thrive in you. So basically, Krishna or Shruti Mata, Veda, all that it is saying is that understand yourself to be that thing in which everything comes and goes. You are that Chit. You are that Chit. And that Chit is something which is beyond time because it's always available. Something which is always available. You can't wait for it, by looking at your watch saying, Abhi kab kam ho jayega dekhta hu. Nahi, wo kam hoga hi nahi kabhi. So it will not change at all. So for us to even understand time, at least the digits have to change or the thing has to move. Otherwise we can't even understand how the time is changing. Or we need to see sun or we need to see moon. One of these relative things we need to see to appreciate even time. To some extent you can say, you don't need any of these things to some extent as far as time is concerned, because time is distance between two thoughts. That's all. So even if you don't have anything around you, you just keep thinking, that length of thinking will be still time only. So you will know, bahut der se baitha hu aise. So you know that because that measure already comes without anything else also. So that time wise, if you ask me, thought is basically the essence of time. The distance between two thoughts is time actually. That's why in Sushupti, you go to bed, no dreams, amazing sleep, get up, you feel as though it was hardly 1 second. It would have been probably 6 hours, but you will think probably it was 1 second, or even not that. You just can't guess time. Mind is resolved, you cannot guess time. As far as movement is concerned, location wise, when you want to see space, in space basically you need point of reference to understand space. You understand space only with reference to from your point to another point actually. If there is no other point, then you only understand it is infinity. That's the only thing you will understand. So here, basically in this example, what we are doing is, in the first example, we are trying to understand what is still and what is moving. In the first example, we understand that as far as any body is concerned, space is still. Body is moving that. Space is the infrastructure. And it has got two abilities. One is omnipresence and omnipotence. Because it can hold heavier things. Anything it can hold. And next example only talks about Chit being that infrastructure, absolutely still and infinite, without any boundaries. The first one said space has no boundaries and it is all pervasive. Then the second example says Chit is all pervasive, no boundaries. Now, how can you have two things which have a similar nature? If I say space is everywhere, it means that nothing else is everywhere, no? This is where the trick is. First, I understand space is everywhere, it is limitless and it is all pervasive. Now, in the second understanding, when I say that Chit is everywhere and it is all pervasive, and that's the only thing which has the ingredient of knowing, to know, SCI, science is there only in that. Then you now understand the first example where we said it didn't have the point of cognition. It was not there at all. To that extent, it has a handicap. So something which has a handicap cannot be the boss. In the second example, we stumbled upon an item which is all pervasive, omnipotent, omnipresent, as well as omniscient. Now, when you have another entity which has one more qualification, which is basically knowing, all that what we are doing is knowing. That entire concept of knowing is in Chit, and that's the boss. So that becomes the boss. Obviously, space is not there at all. What is happening? Chit is the infrastructure in which space happens. Space happens in the infrastructure of Chit, which is unlimited. That's the reason, which is space is very closest to that actually. That's the reason space imbibes those two big qualities of omnipresence and omnipotence. That's the reason. But unfortunately, it being Jada, it is not able to get the Chaitanyatva. It is not having it actually. But what's happening? Space itself is an object in Chaitanya. So then what happens? You understand that there is only Chaitanya all through. Every pixel, if it is Chaitanya, then what else is there? There is nothing else is there. No? Pixel also we have to say as a word only because we again understand things only through boundaries. It is actually Akhanda. It has got no boundaries. But to say that every point is space only, though we have to use the word point. Because the learning is happening through mind. That's the reason. But we have to step out of that understanding of contain and whatever, an object and boundary, that we have to come out of. So the second example, the second inquiry says that Chit is everywhere. And what is that link to us? The link to us is that I am that Chit. That is where the Aikya has to happen. If we come to the system and say, fine, Chit is everything, that's what I learned in Vedanta, and we do puja of Chit, Gaya Kam se. We don't need to do puja of Chit, we are Chit. So that is why it says, Tasmat Tattvamasi Prashantam Amalam Brahmadvayam Yatparam. Therefore, you are that Brahman which is free from modifications and stains and is limitless and non-dual. So that's the last line, which comes in all these subsequent verses. At least in 2-3 verses you will be getting this actually. In the original work, I think it continues even for many more verses actually. Because they are reiterating this. This Aikya part is very, very important in Brahma Vidya. Finally, the culmination point is this actually. So with this, I can go to verse 82. Is it fine, Manishji? Sure, we'll go.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Most welcome. Any more doubts in those specific examples? No, we can discuss either at the end of the session or Manishji, we can also discuss separately anytime. Okay, so we'll go to verse 82. Nidra kalpita desha kala vishaya gyatradi sarvam yatha mithya tadvat iha api jagrati jagat swagyana karyatvatah swa agyana karyatvatah yasmad evamidam sharira karana prana aham adhyapi ahamadhyapi asat. Tasmat Tattvamasi Prashantamamalam Brahmadvayam Yat Param. So, if I read the immediate translation, just as all that is created in dream, like space, time, object, knower, etc., is not real, similarly, here too, in the waking state, the world, being a product of self-ignorance, is not real. Because of this reason, this body, mind, sense complex, prana, ahankara, etc., are also not real. Therefore, you are that non-dual Brahman, which is free from modifications, impurity, and limitations. So it is trying to emphasize that understanding of oneself with that Nitya Vastu. So we were always taking ourselves to be this Anitya Vastu, which is this body mind sense complex. That's where we understood that we are not any of these items that forms this Panchakosha. We are that Atma which is there all the time. Stula Sukshma Karana Sharirad Vyatirikta Panchakosha Atita San Avastha Traya Sakshi Satchitananda Swarupaha Sanyastishtati Sa Atma. This is how Atma is defined, and we have to disassociate ourselves, our identification of ourselves with this body mind sense complex, arrive at ourselves as this pure Atma, which is of the nature of Sat Chit Ananda. Sat, that is the only truth. Chit, it is available as Chit right away. Ananda is happiness, or Ananta, which means it is endless, limitless. It's always there. So that culmination of knowledge has to happen, and between the Jiva, which is oneself, the inquirer, and the Parama, which is either called Ishvara or Brahman, whatever, the ultimate cause, that difference in thinking has to go. There is nothing like Parama. Jiva is Parama even now. How? Jiva, the understanding of Jiva as the wrong understanding of Jiva as this body mind sense complex, when it is given away, and when Jiva understands itself as Atma, which is Satchidananda, on the other side also it is Satchidananda. Now Satchidananda and Satchidananda are always equal. That's the reason in our understanding, in our right understanding of ourselves, Atma Vidya, we also understand Brahman. Then Brahma Vidya and Atma Vidya, they are all one and the same. We understand ourselves to be that ultimate. This is why it is Aham Brahmasmi. When Guru says it is Tattvamasi, when the student understands, the realization is Aham Brahmasmi. I am that ultimate, that's all. I am basically that infrastructure which is Chit. In that, every happening is possible. All Jivas, all items, all this Saptadvipa or Saptakhanda or this so many oceans, Sagara, everything comes in this. They are all in this only, and they go in this only, into this only. In Tamil, there is very nice verses written by one of the saints by name Shivavakya. I think he was obviously Upasaka of Shivavakya, but he was talking more about Vedanta and Advaita Vedanta. So, one of the lines he writes this way. He writes all, I think, four lines each. I'll say first and then I'll translate it. Avadum parathule, Alivadum parathule, Povadum parathule, Puguvadum parathule, Devarum parathule, Tisaigalum parathule, Yavarum parathule, Yanuma parathule, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Simple. So, Avadam Parathule, Alivadam Parathule. Anything that happens as constructive thing, something creation that happens in Para. Para, you can take it either as space or consciousness. Para is, space is more easy because, okay, from a mental perspective, creation happens in space. That way. You can even replace it by Parama, consciousness. The verse says Param only. Avadum Parathule, Alivadum Parathule. Things happen in this and things also resolve in this Parama only. Para. Okay. Povudum parathule, pugudum parathule. They travel in this and they go in this and they finally resolve also in this. And Devarum parathule, Tisegalum parathule. All these devas, they are in that para only. All these directions, basically space. Directions means space. Tisaigalum parathule. This space itself is in parama only, in param only, para. Yavaram parathule, yanama parathule. Everyone is in this parama only. I am also in that parama only. So when I am saying I am also in that parama, more from a body mind sense complex it is mentioned. When you understand yourself as Chit, you don't say I am also this, I am also in this parama. You say that I am parama. That's where that Aham Brahmasmi comes in. So these are very nice verses. In fact, there are many more verses actually of Shiva Vakya. It's so amazing, so nice actually. I would, maybe sometime I will translate these verses and send it to you all. I can do that. So basically, Aikya, the lack of any differentiation between Jiva and Parama is Aikya. That oneness. That oneness is the Phalasiddhi of this pursuit. If that happens, job is done. After that you can enjoy this. Obviously you can keep enjoying this. I mean, it is like, eating the ice cream and then still enjoying some of the leftovers in the cone. That's a different thing. So, you can enjoy this knowledge, this awareness, this idea, this ultimate clarity. And from a related, life perspective, your life will be even better than before, because now you don't have any fear. You know your real nature. Your real nature is that you are the Chit, which is the greatest infrastructure in which everything, including space and time, they come and go. If that is what your status is, then what do you need to worry about? There is nothing other than yourself. Seemingly, thank God there is an entertainment that is available. It is like, you are just alone and suddenly you create a TV and you are entertaining yourself with this TV. And the TV, you know that it can come and go, it can, become obsolete, it can become better through better innovation, but then you are intact. You are the witness. That witness is available. Everything else, even though ephemeral and not eternal, they are available as an entertainment to oneself. But one should not get stuck with this actually and get into a wrong identification. The right identification that one is everything has to be intact. So that oneness, that Aikya is very important. That's what is stressed by in all this, stressed in all these verses. So after this, what we have is we have an indication as to how a person behaves. What happens when a person understands this knowledge. So when a person understands this knowledge, he is called Jivan Mukta. So Jivan Mukta means liberated while living. See, after death there is no liberation actually. many systems, they promise a Swarga or whatever, Naraka or heaven after death. After death, who cares actually? You don't know what the hell you are going to do after death. You don't have the same awareness as what you are. Though definitely you exist, that's a different thing. But if heaven happens to be a location, then again you are getting into a location, which means you can get out of the location anytime. Someone will say, boss, punya to, it is enough now, get lost. So many companies, so-called companies who are, employee friendly, after 50 years, they change the philosophy saying, no, now we have to also become, lean like other companies and let us drive away people, who are not that fast. So you get into that mode sometime. So Swarga is also like that only. You go there, it is different. It is there for a defined time, then you have to come out of that place also. And there also there is a competition. So that happens. So we are not talking about that state where you get kind of happiness again through Vishaya Ananda. So that's not what we are looking at. We are looking at that where we want to understand what is reality. If the reality happens to be that yes, I am this limited being always, I have to keep coming and going, I'll keep suffering this. Okay, let us understand the reality. If that be so. Luckily, Shastra points out saying, no boss, that is not your reality. minus all this Panchakosha, just switch your understanding to Chit, Atma. You are that ultimate in which everything is happening. There is no second thing that exists apart from you. Advayam, Brahmadvayam. That's what it is saying. Brahmadvayam Yat Param. So it is, you are that without a second. So there is no second thing. So there is nothing to be worried about, for you to be worried, because you are the only thing that exists. So that's what Shastra is saying. Once one understands this, he is out of this problem. After that, in any case, whatever goes on is anybody's guess for that matter. But one thing is that you don't have stress because you are already sorted. The sense of being limited is gone. So that's what happens. So in the subsequent verses, Shankaracharya is trying to explain how a person feels after or behaves once he understands this knowledge. So those are the subsequent verses. But today, probably the next 13 minutes, we can have questions around whatever we have discussed until now. Anyone? Any questions you can ask? You can even ask questions about the example what we discussed.
So one thing, Bhaskarji, I would like to ask, maybe going back onto what you explained today. Now there are two concepts which we understood is, one is the space and the second is Chit, which is, so Chit is basically, if we look at it, above the space.
Yes.
So space resides in Chit. Consciousness is something which is
Yes.
like everywhere.
Yes.
So there can be a place which is not there, but there, like if just to, for an example, if there is somewhere where there is no space, but consciousness is still there.
That is what
Like,
that is what is self-realized state, where you just know that you are there, nothing else apart from this is there, which is including space as well. Brahma Advitiyam. You are that without a second. If a second thing has to come, what is the second thing? The second thing is space to start with. That's the reason the entire chance of space coming itself is destroyed there. It is the system. You just read the last line. Na? That's the beauty of the way they explain it. Therefore, you are that non-dual Brahman, which is free from modifications, impurity and limitations. That non-dual, that Advaita is very important. Brahmadvitiyam. Tasmat Tattvamasi Prashantam Amalam Brahmadvayam Yat Param. So you are that Brahman without a second. You are that Chit without a second. Without a second means what? Without another object. Without another object, when you have to start with it, that is space. When you understand you are Brahman and space itself is not there, because second thing is not there. In that understanding, that is what is Akhanda Vritti. Because there is no sense of a second thing at all. Because when you are that ultimate which has all the three, again, Guna, it is Nirguna. Again, we have to understand with Guna, because even now the inquiry is happening through mind only. Na? Doubt is in mind. It has got a pattern of its understanding, own way of understanding. That pattern only we are killing. To kill that, we have to still use these words. We have almost gone to Chit, where we are saying we are Chit, there is nothing else other than this. But still we have to use words only to make that understanding even more firm. So we have to use this word. There are three properties. When we say Brahman is Nirguna, we are saying Brahman has three properties. See, that is an anomaly. But anyway, that's how mind works actually. So you have to trick it. So you have omnipotence, omnipresence and omniscience. Now when a second object has to happen, it is happening minus one of the main things, which is Chit. Right? Because the person who is witnessing everything, he is that Chit. He is that Chit. He is able to see his other powers. That's what space is all about. And that's when the moment space is there, objects can always keep coming. The possibilities of objects are always there when space is there. You create a container, in that container anything can come. You create a house and just keep it, some terrorists can occupy, or some good families can also occupy. Possibility is there. You just create a container, anything can occupy it. So the moment you create space, that's where things are gone. Your understanding goes to space, then you think everything is outside of you. That's where the problem is. There's only one thing that exists, so there is nothing inside and outside. The moment we create a threshold, then you have an inside and outside. When there is no threshold, there is nothing called inside and outside. So actually in Chit, there is no space, because Chit is that which has all the three powers. To an extent, it can think that, okay, fine, if I forget my power of cognitive ability, the other two powers that I have, they are omnipresence and omnipotence. So to that extent, Chit can say, okay, fine, I have these two powers as well. To that extent, it can say, I have these two powers. That becomes a Dvaita again. But then it is more a speculation from a mind's perspective. That which is intact remains intact. It has no psychological problems. Because thinking as such, okay, from a Jiva perspective, is through this medium of mind, which is matter. However, Chit is that natural cognizer. It does not need Antahkarana at all. Just imagine, no? From a simple example, you can imagine. Amoeba also thinks. It has got whatever ability to think, it thinks, because it knows that there is food around it. That's the reason it creates its body, it surrounds that, and then it closes the body on the other side, and it captures food that way. Actually, it has sense. If that size also can have a sense, and a person like several millions of amoeba size also can have the same sense of I and others, me and others. So that sense is the same everywhere actually. Any conscious being, me versus others. That is exactly the same. So ignorance has no size. Ignorance is just ignorance. So Antahkarana, however big or small it may be, finally concept is the same. It is ignorance. So Chit, when you understand, you are the Chit. In that everything is subsumed. Everything is subsumed.
So one more thing here means, does that mean that consciousness, when for my understanding of consciousness till now has been that all living things have a consciousness, maybe living thing. So it is not, it is that every matter has a consciousness, whether it is living, non-living is our definition.
Yes.
But what is being created is created with some kind of consciousness.
Yes.
So consciousness is everywhere. Everything what we see around has a consciousness.
Yes. Yes. To put it in other words, consciousness is the infrastructure in which both animated objects as well as inanimate objects thrive. Because that's a container. Anything has to be in a container. But that thing may be a conscious being or a not conscious being. Because that Antahkarana, that which can actually reflect consciousness, that has to be there. In a real rock, that Antahkarana is not there, that's all. But Antahkarana requires a part of the rock also. Our mind requires everything, from the periodic table. You need this vitamin, this vitamin, glucose, everything we need. Everything of world we need actually for our mind to work. If it is not there, they will poke our blood and then check which one is not there. They have to then supplement it. D vitamin, lelo, then your thinking will be all right actually. So that has to be all given supplemented from world only. But that's a beautiful thing to know how exactly this entire jada, this world of this periodical table is jada. It has no chetana at all in that sense. It has no thinking ability kind of. But this is required for thinking to happen. Where it becomes subtle is something, it's a great thing. You can compare that with computer. In computer, ideally in electricity, you have certain thing that is called conductor. Other one which is resistor, non-conductor. Resistor is different. One is non-conductor, one is conductor. But you have something called a semiconductor. That's when the world of computers and software is born. That's amazing. On one side you have conductor, that which can pass the electricity through just straight. Other one is non-conductor, which doesn't allow electricity to pass. These two are very easy to understand. Now when it comes to semiconductor, it does and also does not do. ये क्या होता है? So that is where mind comes into picture. Where mind is very subtle. It has got the ability as a software or whatever you can call it, to be able to use this cognitive item, which is this chit, and work on it. But it is very much dependent on the gross things as well. It is not only dependent, it is basically using that power only, and that what you can say, this semiconductor works with the concept of that power only, because the word conductor is only for conduction, is only for power only. It does that. Okay, it creates as though it is a kind of what you can say, a soft thing, because software is very much close to this actually. No, it is 0 and 1, they are dependent on this concept only, whether a power is there or not. 0 and 1 digits, they are related on this only, and with 0 and 1 you convert that into knowledge, and you put a sensor and say fine, if this is the number of bytes and this is how the pattern is, then you consider this as A and you consider this as B. So that's when you create knowledge and you give it a knowledge the way it can understand it. But finally what's happening, it is all jada that is given a pattern to behave like as though it is Chetana, which is not, which it is not. So this is why the difference between inanimate object and an animated object, an unconscious being and a conscious being, is that in a conscious being, this antahkarana makes all the difference. It is able to use the chit and give an impression as though it is intelligent. That's why that intelligence is a kosha. Vijnanamaya kosha. Manomaya kosha. So it gives a feeling as though I am an intelligent person, I am this, my IQ is 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. But it has to understand that the one who is claiming, kind of, the confused guy, is saying that the periodical table which I have in me is best. When it is jada, what is the big deal actually? It is jada in any case, what is the big deal? But it is saying, while using the chit's ability to say that, and it doesn't know that, it doesn't acknowledge that. That's where the self-ignorance is all about. Shastra has to come and neutralize this ignorance, point out the ignorance and neutralize it. So this is where, mind is something which is objectified, and we understand that mind behaves this way. We take it to be its nature and let it be what it is. That's all. We don't do anything. Initially we try to control our mind, discipline, because we have to remove the noise and at least be able to allow the teaching to go inside. That's all. And once teaching goes inside, it makes big difference, and it calls the bluff of mind. That's the reason mind will not actually abide in the class, because its existence is being questioned. That's the reason mind will not allow the knowledge to completely happen. It will keep on trying to thrive in its ignorance.
So that's why it is, at times it looks so difficult to understand.
Yeah, exactly. Because
there is a lot of resistance from mind to...
Yes, to jump. It is like, the kind of inhibition or whatever one has when one has to dive into the swimming pool. That worry of, what will happen. That is always there actually. Nahi karna. So let us not listen to jnana, because our whatever existence we are having is being questioned. So I don't want to get into jnana so much. Mind will try to get away from this. But anyway, mind alone is also the reason for liberation, as much as it is the cause for bondage. So that statement is also true. So nice that we are having a discussion in which I am remembering those lines as well. There is one popular line which I might have said earlier also, maybe initial classes. Manayeva manushyanam karanam bandha moksha yoho. Mind alone is the reason for liberation, as much as it is the reason for bondage. Because If at all anyone has to be treated, it is mind only. Unless mind is available for the class, nothing can happen. So that's why the mental discipline is very important. The mental discipline has to be given because the noise has to be reduced so that the teaching can go in. Teaching alone is the antidote. In that understanding, mind will realize that it is mithya. So mind alone has to cooperate in this to get away of get away from this wrong understanding which it only had. So it's tricky. So the vastu which we are talking about, which we are, has been always there. Always it has been there. That vastu alone is making you recollect from your childhood till now. You are owning only because of that vastu only. The common thread which is there right from that time to this time is just that vastu only. It is just that we are not able to link ourselves to others, because the antakarana has a limitation. It travels with this body and the happenings of this body. That's the reason it is continuing. But the real indweller has been there in many bodies. That's the reason he has certain fear. Even though he has been a child, he has certain fear about certain colors or certain kinds of creatures. That's because he has already seen these creatures and colors earlier. Otherwise, when we are starting on a clean slate, we should have no problem. But fear is always there, right from childhood it is there. And they are not created fears in this, they are not fears created in this birth. The fears are already there. That's what Vasana is all about. So, once we call the bluff of mind, its propensity to hold ignorance goes off for good. And that's where we have to understand that, okay, once you understand you to be the Chit is the infrastructure in which every possibility is happening. You are the Chit which is the whole. There is no containment at all. There is no size, relative size, nothing. It is just one thing. So you are the, now this certain concepts will be very easy. So when Krishna says, I am the smallest and I am the biggest. So when he says this, you will now understand. Because that which is total is that which is everything. You can say anything about it now. It is the smallest, it's the biggest as well. Because it has no container. That's the reason you can say that. It's like a joker, which has got such a power in a pack of cards to replace anything. At least in the case of a joker, it's another card. But here we are saying that joker is there in every card. Imagine a joker which is there in every card. That's what consciousness is all about. That's what consciousness is all about. It is there every minute, every time, right away with us. So we have to again use the word. See, words become very difficult to explain things. Again, I'm using the word with us. With what? I am that actually. So why should I say with us? I am that already. So, good. Keep inquiring, and this is the tricky part. This is the time where that samadhanam, single pointedness of mind, as a part of sadhana chaturthaya, has to be continued with great energy, and you have to crack it. So we cannot leave it actually. It's like going to CAT exam. So the last 2-3 marks make the real difference. So we can't say we will study up to 99 and then 1 mark take a chhod do. 1 mark may bahut difference hota hai. So that's the reason the last part let us not leave. The Aikya is very important. Let's ask for enough grace of the Lord and keep proceeding. And we'll meet in the next session. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Hari Om.